Hi Year 7, welcome to video lessons of your maths lessons. Today we're going to go through corresponding angles. It's a new chapter in the textbook, chapter 15, titled Parallel Lines. The aim of today's lesson is to identify corresponding angles in geometry problems. Now, first thing I want to define is what a pair of parallel lines is. So parallel lines are lines that never meet. So for example, if I drew in two lines like so, those would be parallel lines. And mathematicians use these arrows to indicate the lines are parallel. Could draw them the other way around, like so. And I can use arrows like that, and that means these two lines are parallel. I could even have them go at an angle, and that means these two lines are parallel. Now, what we need to do as well is draw a third line in. So I'm going to draw a third line in to each of these, like so. Now that third line is obviously not parallel to the other two, so we don't draw any arrows on it. But if you drew a copy of these diagrams in your book, what you could do is measure, for example, these two angles using a protractor. If you measure those with a protractor, I guarantee they'll be equal to each other. Also, if you drew this diagram out and you measure these two angles, just these two angles, I guarantee they'll be equal to each other as well. And if you pick up the third diagram and you measure these two angles, I guarantee again with a protractor they'd be equal to each other. And I haven't picked those pairs of angles at random. I've picked them so they create an F shape. That is an F shape. This one, slightly rotated F. It's an F on its side, like so. That angle produces an F. And this third one, again, produces an F. And this shape, which some people call an F angle, in parallel lines, F angles are equal to each other. So maybe in this third diagram, if I measure this angle, they might be both, say, 110 degrees. There's a fancy word for F angles you need to know, and the clue is in the title of today's lesson, which was, in other words, corresponding angles are equal. F angles, corresponding angles, they mean exactly the same thing. F angle reminds you what the shape is going to look like. Corresponding is actually the fancy maths term for it. So you need to know that F angles, or in other words, corresponding angles, are equal to each other. Okay, let's look at some examples. So, e.g. number 1, work out the missing angle. So we've got this geometry shape, three angles labelled, x is the thing we want to work out, and we are looking for an F angle, effectively. And quite difficult to see at first, but it's effectively the F upside down. there, there, and the F is upside down. And now you can tell me what X would be, because corresponding angles are equal. So if that angle there is 60 degrees, X, which is corresponding to it, is also 60 degrees. So X equals 60 degrees because of corresponding angles are equal. Okay, e.g. number 2. A little bit more of a complicated diagram, and this time there's two angles to work out, X and Y. Now you should know it's good technique to work them out in alphabetical order. So work out X first, and again we are looking for today's lesson F angles. This one's a little bit more straightforward. There's the F shape there. That angle is the same as that angle. So X is equal to 80 degrees. Okay, this one a little bit harder. How do you work out Y? So stare at it for long enough, you will notice that there's another pair of parallel sides, and you can use F angles but in this direction instead. So it's quite difficult to do this now. I put the green in, but there's an F shape there as well, where that angle is the same as that angle. Okay, so I'll try that with another highlighter. So there, 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 F angles. And we've just said X is 80, so Y would also be 80 degrees. Again, both of those corresponding angles. Okay, third example. It's getting a bit more complicated. Now, sometimes when you're asked to work out missing angles, you have to work out some of the unlabeled angles first, because there's no way I can work out X in this case in one step. No way at all. However, we've got parallel sides. We know to look for this F angle, which is there, but the F means that is equal to that. We don't get X in one step. So this missing angle there is 120 degrees. Now how on earth can you use that to work out X? I'll give you a clue. Think of the stuff we've done in geometry before. If this is a straight line and you've got two angles there, that one's 120, X would be equal to 60, because all the angles need to add up to 180. So X is 180, subtract 120, which is 60 degrees in this case. But I had to work out a missing angle in between. Last chance to make this a little bit harder. So, e.g. number 4. More complicated diagram, more angles to work out. Now, again, you're recommended to do this in alphabetical order. So, how on earth can you work out P? P, Q, R, S, T. So, we should work out P first. So, the angle P there. You could sit there all day and try and work out an F angle for P, but it won't work. It's an easier problem. It's inside a little triangle, and you know two of the angles. So P is actually 180, subtract those two angles. If you subtract 65 and subtract 40, what will that leave you with? 75 degrees. label that in, 75 degrees. Okay, PQ, Q is next. Work out Q. Think about how you would do this. Well, this is an F angle. If I go there, there we go. We've got 65 degrees, 65 degrees. Q would have to be 65 degrees, and this time corresponding angles. Okay, PQ, R. R next. Any ideas on how to work out R? Again, this is upside down a little bit, but there is an F angle there, which means R is equal to 40 degrees. Matches up with that angle there. 40 degrees. Again, corresponding angles are equal. Right, next one. S, P, Q, R, S. How do you work out what S is? Okay, you don't have to overcomplicate this. This is a straight line. 65 degrees, something needs to equal 180. So S is 180. Subtract 65, which gives you 115 degrees. Angles on a straight line add up to 180. And the last one to work out is T. And again, don't have to overcomplicate this. This is a straight line. 40 plus something is 180 to give you 140 degrees. And that is the answer to P, Q, R, S, and T in alphabetical order. Now the questions I would like you guys to do today is, if you find page 267 in the textbook, goes on to 268 as well. It's called exercise 15C. And you're just going to do all the questions. All of the questions. Okay?